Welcome back to the Varsity Voices, Chicago Catholic League Sports Talk. I'm Joe Frevaletti, and with me is my co-host, Dan Frevaletti. We are diving into week 2 of the Chicago Catholic League football season. Some hard-fought defensive battles, some explosive offensive showcases. This week had it all. We'll break down the biggest wins, the surprising storylines, and what these results mean as we head into week 3. And of course, stick around because we'll be revealing the week 2 recipient of Zuko's Dog of the Week, recognizing the players show that relentlessness, determination, and impact on the field. You're not going to want to miss it. All right, Dan, week 2 in the books, and another really exciting week with some couple of surprises, right?
If you are looking to buy or sell a home, contact RE/MAX Realtor and Circle of Legends recipient Christopher Cobb. Let Chris's extensive negotiating experience work to guide you on all of your real estate buying and selling needs. Contact Christopher now to discuss the right strategy for your personalized real estate buying and selling plan. His number is 630-420-0070, or you can visit his website at christophercobb.com.
I think that's going to be the status quo from here on out through the rest of the season, right? We're going to be surprised every week by something.
Yeah, now the non-conference season's over, so we get into the meat of the Chicago Catholic League schedule. We start to see that term that we coined last year, Catholic League. We start to see that show up, as well as backs against the wall.
Yeah, so
it's there.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking today, Dan. As I was going through some of this, I thought Dan's going to say back against the wall for this team.
Yeah.
And, to be honest, there are a couple who I think their backs are against the wall.
Yeah. Looking at some of the schedules, that they have coming up combined with their current record.
Yeah.
Yeah, they got to get busy.
You hate to say that after only 2 games, but
well, it's what the people complaining at the end of the year about the Catholic League moving so far in the playoffs won't talk about how difficult it is to get in from this league. So
yeah, that's true. So let's get into some of the games here, or all of the games actually, I think, and we'll give a quick recap and let people know what happened. What do you think?
Sounds good.
All right, so let's start. We're going to go or try and go division by division, and we'll start with the first game here, and this was Mount Carmel and St. Rita. I watched this game, Dan, and I did not watch the game Mount Carmel and Moeller last week, but I know that was an outstanding game just from what I read about it. And one of the things I noticed in watching Mount Carmel is that they live up to that billing. I don't know where they're nationally ranked right now, but they have got a ton of talent up and down that roster on both sides of the ball.
Yeah,
they're unbelievable, is right. And after watching them, I can't imagine who might give them a game this year, but we'll see. That's why they play the games, right? But this one, they won over St. Rita, and St. Rita was my dark horse pick to go undefeated. And I thought they might have a little bit better showing here. I mean, they did put up a fight, I think. They lost one of their key players in Walter Jones. He got injured during the game, so they were down him as a receiver or a weapon on offense. So that didn't help, obviously. But Mount Carmel just really rolled to a 35-14 win over St. Rita. Emmett Dowling, the quarterback this year for Mount Carmel, just had an outstanding game again. Last week he threw for almost 400 yards. This week he threw for 272 yards. He was 20 of 31. He threw 3 touchdown passes. He also ran one in, and he spread the ball around to some of their weapons. Marshawn Thornton had a touchdown catch. Quentin Burrell had a touchdown catch. And then a guy that we haven't really talked about all that much and kind of burst upon the scene here is Jamari Brown, another wide receiver that they have. And he had 118 receiving yards and a touchdown as well. So the weapons are just there up and down that roster, and they just showed why they're one of the best teams in the country and probably the best team in the state of Illinois, in my opinion. This was a real test for St. Rita. I think they were looking at it that way, but they just did not have enough to hang on with Mount Carmel. So nothing against St. Rita. I think they're still going to have a really good year. They've got that kind of talent, but Mount Carmel is just too much for probably every team in the Chicago Catholic League.
Yeah, hopefully Walter Jones isn't out for very long.
I hope not.
Hopefully, I hope it wasn't too serious. It's funny, kind of a theme. Saw some serious injuries. At least that took a lot of time on the field.
Right.
So hope everyone's okay. With that. So, Joe, one team as we move on. Is that okay?
Yeah, let's go.
One team that might be able to stack up a little bit talent wise kind of showed it this weekend too. And Brother Rice over Marist, 35-0. That was a surprise score.
That is a surprise score.
Yeah. And they controlled the ball. I did have this game on, was watching it. It felt like the entire game was played on Marist's half of the field. Whether they were on offense or defense, just felt like they could never really get anything going. They have the big offensive line. They were up against a great defensive line.
Right.
King Liggins was right there, and he's just a force to be reckoned with. And they've got great talent up and down as well. Cam McGee on that defensive line, 2-way player. But it was just too much Brother Rice for this show. And Jovan and Jalen Green, brothers, each had one touchdown. CJ Gray had one rushing, 2 passing.
Okay.
The interesting fact about this game, Joe, I read in an article that Brother Rice, it is their first win in this Battle of Pulaski since 2012.
Really?
Yes.
I would not have thought that, considering the talent, that's come to Brother Rice.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's been played every year.
Mm-hmm.
I honestly I don't, but yeah, I thought that stat was interesting. But Brother Rice really showed itself. So looking ahead to that Brother Rice Mount Carmel matchup, that could be one where at least talent wise, there's at least the pedigrees that somewhat kind of at least stand up a little bit to Mount Carmel on Brother Rice's roster.
Yeah. Okay. Well, one of the things about this, Dan, is I'm wondering how good do you think Brother Rice is this year?
They dominated this game. They just kind of owned it from the snap. They were pretty methodical. It wasn't like they had 35 in the first quarter. They kind of built the lead, but just continued to. And it was really good on both sides of the ball. Mm-hmm. That was so impressive about it. It was a domination on both sides. Now, I think if Marist had to work on anything big picture wise, it would be a better passing game, but we don't know. That could have been Brother Rice's doing as well. So they do look really, really good.
ALS, also known as Lou Gehrig's disease, is a devastating illness that weakens the muscles we use to move, swallow, and breathe. Over time, it becomes fatal. On average, people live just 2 to 5 years after diagnosis. There's no cure yet, but thanks to research and clinical trials at the Les Turner ALS Center at Northwestern Medicine, we're getting closer every day. This fight is personal for me and Dan. Our brother-in-law passed away from ALS a couple of years ago. That's why I want to invite you to join the ALS Walk for Life on Saturday, September 20th at Soldier Field, hosted by Chicago's Les Turner ALS Foundation. Funds raised support their mission to provide comprehensive care for people living with ALS, their families, and to advance life-changing research. Come be part of the movement. There'll be food trucks, live entertainment, and fun for the whole family. Together, we can honor loved ones, support those battling ALS today, and bring hope for a cure tomorrow. Learn more or register now at alswalkforlife.org. All right, good. Well, it's going to be interesting as we head into the Chicago Catholic League schedule to see what happens with some of these teams going forward. Some of them that have looked really good and some maybe not so good, right? So we'll see. Now, you also watched the St. Ignatius DePaul Prep game, right?
Yeah. So the Varsity Voices Bowl,
Varsity Voices Bowl,
St.
right?
Ignatius won this game 24-14. And Joe, I think if St. Ignatius could script how a game would go, I think they
Right.
would script it like this. I think they
Really?
had the ball for 10 and a half out of the 12 minutes in the third quarter. I mean, it was unbelievable. They played their game to a T, with number 22, Robbie Connor. Great game. He's an outstanding back, and he comes out of that fullback position. Not really built like your traditional fullback, but
Right.
he's got the ability to take that inside handoff and break it out to the outside if he sees an opportunity there, and teams kind of sell out to stop that fullback dive.
Yeah.
He broke it out a couple times for some long runs, had a really, really nice game. They controlled the ball. The DePaul Prep tried to come back late. St. Ignatius, Connor Wanzung, their defense, he leads their defense, and they were really good. They gave DePaul Prep fits.
Yeah.
And when you don't have the ball that often, you feel like it's like a baseball player that feels like he's got to hit a home run, to win the game.
Right.
Because they just didn't know if they're going to get another opportunity. So that's kind of how this game felt, Joe. But St. Ignatius gets a really, really good first win in this series. I hope it's played, again and continuously. I hope they stick to it. But St. Ignatius comes out on top 24-14.
Okay. Now, is this I was thinking about this today, Dan. Is this one of the teams, and I'm not talking about Ignatius, I'm talking about DePaul Prep, who you think are getting to this point already where their backs are against the wall, especially considering, what they did last year?
Yeah, I mean, they lost some games last year, and it wasn't like they were a dominant team that kind of marched to the state championship.
Right.
Just as we're excuse me, as we're talking here, I'm looking up their schedule.
Yeah.
Because I think it's tough. If I remember right, I think
too.
we've talked about this a few times, that it's going to be a challenge. Yeah, they have Marian Catholic, who's a little down, St. Pat's a little down, but then they've got Loyola, St. Viator, Carmel, Francis, and Bennett. So they are definitely, if you were creating a line, which we don't do in high school, but you think they would be, I don't know, maybe the underdogs in three of those games, with Loyola, Carmel, and St. Francis, but
Right.
They were the underdog last year in a couple games and came out and won. So they certainly their backs are against the wall, but not smashed up against it.
Right, that's good. So we've got to come up with an acronym for that. There's backs against the wall and backs smashed against the wall
Yes,
too. Yeah,
right.
And one sounds worse than the other, obviously,
doesn't it? Yeah.
Yes, it does.
All right, they're like back with their hands are like pushing whatever's pushing against them,
holding. Yeah,
yeah.
I gotcha. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Versus like this, where it's like they're completely smashed against the wall.
Smashed against the wall and trying to turn your head sideways.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. I get it.
Yeah.
All right. So that's the blue division. Let's move on.
Loyola was off. Yep. So just the kind of a bummer again, but hey, it is what it is.
Yeah, it is. All right, we will go on to Green Division and IC against Woodstock North. And what I liked about this game and reading about it, I didn't get a chance to see a ton of it, but I really feel like IC is humming right now, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they beat Woodstock North 40-13, so they start off strong. This year going, 2-0 now, and they, really kind of spread the ball around on offense, which I love to see. They had about 400 passing yards, over 100 yards rushing as well. Nate Lang, I think they found a quarterback here, Dan, completed about 80% of his passes. He threw for
good night.
294 yards, 3 touchdowns, plus he rushed for 30 yards. They've got a receiver in Will Schmidt, who seemed to be Lang's favorite target. He got 144 receiving yards and a touchdown. So, IC seems to really be clicking right now, and that's a good thing because last year we were not able to say that about them, too much throughout the year. So I like to see this from IC, and I think they are just getting started. I think this might be a really good year for them.
That's good, Joe. They, after last year kind of being like we talked about, up and down, fragmented, the whole thing, how they had to operate last year. It's good to see it off to a smooth start.
Right. Okay. All right, good. And let's move on then. And Naz against Morgan Park. And
Yeah.
what'd you see in this game, Dan?
It's so funny. Naz wins this game big, 33-6.
Yeah.
And, a lot of questions surrounding Naz. What'll they be like post Malachuk and post Gabe Kaminsky and,
Right.
these guys. And they look exactly the same. They look like every bit the state final contender that I would not want to play in the playoffs.
Yeah.
They really, they have a multifaceted, talented offense. Trenton Walker, Jake Sestone, are there, and they look outstanding. I want to give a shout out though to the guy in the offensive line, Christian Malachuk.
Yeah.
They did a great job against a big, aggressive Morgan Park front.
Okay. Good.
And he kind of leads the way for them. And defensively, Joe, they fly around. They're one of those teams that I think I said it last week. There are a few teams that look like they play with 16 players on defense, and Naz has always been one of them.
Okay.
Defensive line, because Morgan Park is humongous.
Mm-hmm.
Chris Caskey and Dylan Wellner, really, really solid games. I think Chris Caskey had a sack, and they just had a great day on defense, Joe. But my takeaway from the game is Nazareth still looks exactly like Nazareth.
Now, did they rotate quarterbacks in this game, Dan? Do you know?
I don't know, Joe, if they did or not, but they, whenever and whoever was in, just, they
Didn't
look
matter.
the part. They get it to the right people at the right times.
Right.
Running game looks really solid as well. So again, that's, they still again, do everything that they've always done at a very high level.
Okay. All right. Good. All right. So that's a green division, and we'll move on to the orange. And you already covered Marist, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we've got Joliet Catholic, and this is a team that I'm a little worried about, Dan, this year. So they lost 27-21 against Glenbard West. We knew Glenbard West was good. I mean, they've got some real talented players, and they've got some real speed on the outside. And I think that was trouble for Joliet Catholic in this game. Now, the one thing I like about what Joliet Catholic did is that I think they found something here, Dan, with Lucas Similik to I'm trying to think of or Jaden Armstrong. Wide receiver, right? He had 9 catches for 152 yards.
He's really good.
He's very good. But I feel like it was, just not quite enough even to get them over the top in this game, although this came right down to the end of the game. But Joliet Catholic is now 0-2. I'm not sure when the last time Joliet Catholic has started 0-2, but maybe they found their identity a little bit as far as on offense, and but I think on defense too, they're going to have to figure out what to do to stop some of these teams that have got some good offenses and some speed, and things don't get easier for them. They're playing Fenwick this week, and we know what Fenwick has been able to do. So, Joliet Catholic, I think, has got a real battle ahead of them.
Yeah, just trying to look at their schedule as well. You mentioned Fenwick, Joe, and Joliet Catholic is probably squarely in the backs against the wall category after 2 weeks, right?
Right.
I mean, they're in a really tough division. They've got Marist still to play, so they've got, I'm just trying to see here super fast. Yeah, so after Fenwick, they've got Marist. So they are right back to back, and Nazareth. So they go Fenwick, Marist, Nazareth.
Ah,
That's a tall
jeez.
order. Yeah,
That is a
that's a
tall
tall
order.
order. And then they have Notre Dame, that 2-0 Notre Dame. So,
Right.
so it who's just seems to get better and better. But their backs are against the wall for sure
Yeah.
because they still
Okay.
have then Mount Carmel on the schedule as well.
Right. Yeah, it doesn't get easy.
No.
Yeah.
Nope.
Oh, and you mentioned Mount Carmel, and
And
what
Providence.
game?
Yeah.
The previous you were talking about Naz and how good they look. So how interesting of a game will that be?
Oh yeah.
This coming Friday, Mount
Yeah.
Carmel and Naz.
It's going to
Yeah.
be great. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So the next game was the Providence Lincoln Way Central game. Another one you were keeping track of, Dan.
Yeah, it was a great game, Joe, and it started out like a barn burner. This game was 14-14 with like 5 minutes left in the first quarter. I
Yeah.
feel like, and then there was no scoring. I thought it was going to be in the 40s, on either side,
Huh.
and then it just really slowed down. This is one of the games where injury kind of stalled play a little bit. Providence scored on an advanced fumble, which was really interesting. It ended up being 98 yards. Receiver
Yeah.
catches it, fumbles it. Another player on Providence picks it up and continues to run with it and scores.
Isn't that against the rules?
I thought so.
I
It
thought
looked
so
like
too.
it looks like rugby.
It is in the pros.
Yeah. So
you
it
can't
did.
advance
Yeah.
fumble forward or an advanced fumble or fumble forward and then have somebody pick it up and advance it, right?
Yeah. And I with several games on, it's hard, and I didn't see a recap of. Well, I did see a recap where they had this on it.
Oh, okay.
Doesn't mean it didn't come back, but because it did look funny. It did. It looked like I was watching rugby. But Xavier Coleman's a weapon. He is another. I mean, I don't know how much we've talked about him, but he's a really good. God, he looks the part.
Yeah.
Like a big time college receiver. And I think Providence is still someone to be reckoned with because Lincoln Way Central has some serious speed. I mean, they had found something over their right tackle, kind of a little give, and their running back was just he flew.
Yeah.
And their quarterback can really run. So Lincoln Way Central, both these teams, I think you're going to hear about deep in the playoffs.
Yeah. Okay.
But again, the final, Joe, Lincoln Way Central 26, Providence 14.
Okay. All right. Yeah, we thought that was going to be a tough game for Providence. I can't remember who our picks were, Dan, but I know we talked about how it was going to be a real test for Providence to see where they're at. Okay, so let's move on to Notre Dame and St. Charles East. In Notre Dame, here they are, 2 games into the new head coach's tenure, Coach DeFranza, and they're 2-0. How about that? I didn't know if we would be saying that, Dan, at this point for Notre Dame, but they beat St. Charles East 31-28. And the other thing I like here is how many points they scored. Notre Dame. We didn't see them be able to score too many points last year, but they had the quarterback who came in for Luke Dickey. I'm not sure if Dickey got hurt or what, but Quinn Conway came in and played real well. Hit Nick Miro, wide receiver we've talked about from Notre Dame that we like, with a 28-yard touchdown pass. They also got the running game involved. Troy Nightingale also ran in for a touchdown. So they've got, it seems like they're kind of developing a little bit more of a balanced offense here, which is good. And, they get another win and score a lot of points doing it. So I think they're giving a little bit of notice here to the rest of the Chicago Catholic League as we head into their league schedule, that they're going to be a team that maybe needs to be reckoned with.
Yeah. I felt like they found something at the end of the first game with Nightingale and I want to say Macon, the other running back, number 22. I think he is.
Macon?
And the other quarterback you mentioned. I thought the offense may have moved a little better.
Under Conway?
Yes,
Quinn
and
Conway. Yeah.
yeah. So I know that Dickey's earned his time, and
Yeah.
there's no reason not to keep him in. But they've got some weapons brewing, and they need a little confidence. And if you can get that out of these 2 weeks, that's great for Notre Dame.
Yeah, I think so too. Okay, good. All right, so the next game is St. Viator, and they play Kenwood. And this was a game you were tracking, Dan, on Friday. What'd you see here? I know Viator won their first game. Kenwood was maybe a step up competition wise, and what happened?
Yeah, it kind of showed. So Joe, this game was 7-7 at the half. But in the second half, it was all Kenwood and all Kenyante Lewis. Scored 2 touchdowns. St. Viator committed 2 turnovers that did not help their cause. And they just had a tough time hanging with Kenwood. So the final here was 27-7. It really interesting as it leads into next week, Joe. They host Marmion,
Oh,
and
okay.
Marmion coming off a big victory after a tough loss. St. Viator trying to kind of find their way with a lot of new people around. So sets up for a good game next week. But in this one, Joe, it was too much Kenwood, who is really good. We heard good things about. So Kenwood 27, St. Viator 7.
Okay. All right, and another one that you were watching here, Dan, was St. Pat's and Larkin, right?
Yeah, I was following it. It wasn't.
Following it, yeah.
Wasn't necessarily on video wise, but St. Pat's big, 49-12, which we kind of thought might be the case with, Larkin's kind of been in a down cycle. I guess
Right.
I'll call it for a while.
Yeah.
But I did see some highlights. Gavin Gardner, a quarterback. They got a nice big tall quarterback that stands tall and throws the ball really nice in the pocket. So their offense looked really good, and they have an opportunity. They aren't exactly just kind of pounding it behind the big offensive line. The offensive line big as ever from the highlights
Yep.
I saw,
Okay. Yep.
but they certainly have some players on that team. Like I said, I really like their quarterback Gavin Gardner, and be interesting because they host Leo next week. So
Yeah.
that'll be a nice test for both those teams, and interesting to follow. But Joe, again, the score is St. Pat's 49, Larkin 12.
Okay. All right. Next game here is Bennett, and they played Glenbard North, and Bennett falls to Glenbard North in this game, and really it kind of turned out to be a little bit dominating by Glenbard North by the time the game was over. But Bennett came out strong. Joe Salvino, their running back, broke free on a 75-yard touchdown run, which gave Bennett the lead right away, 7-0. But from there on out, it was all Glenbard North. I think Bennett's defense did not have any answers for the Gatsis brothers from Glenbard North, who I saw a little bit of this film. They are two really good players.
Are they the wide receivers?
Wide receiver and a running back too.
Okay. All
yeah.
right. Yeah.
Yeah. And they and one also had a punt return for a touchdown. So, those are two kids you gotta watch out for. Donato Gatsis and Angelo Gatsis. Two good names, right?
He should be in the Catholic League for sure.
Right. But Bennett couldn't muster much after the touchdown run by Salvino on offense, and they had trouble stopping Glenbard North on defense, and that's a recipe for a loss.
Yes, it is,
isn't it? And unfortunately, after Bennett getting a nice win in their first game against Hillcrest, was unable to kind of capitalize on that or build some momentum. So I'm not sure if Bennett's going to be looking for some answers, after this game, and
right.
maybe they or not. It's kind of hard to tell, but I will be interested to see what they do going into the next game and starting the league schedule. If they make some tweaks or some changes, on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, and they would be in the category of backs against the wall. And just looking at their schedule, I know, they've got Mount Carmel and Nazareth looming,
right.
as well as so again, not smashed up against the wall, but just,
right.
you're just kind of backing up and you feel the wall, right?
Yeah,
So
right.
that's Bennett can be in that category as well. So I think they host, I think, De La Salle this week. So
Right.
who has struggled. So we'll see what that does for Bennett and before they get into division play.
Right. Yeah. So that game's at Bennett, you said, right?
I think so. I
think so too. Okay. All right. So another game in the red division here was Marmion versus North Lawndale. Marmion really had kind of a dominant performance here. I think we expected this, Dan, from Marmion. Yeah. They won 55-0 over North Lawndale. So Marmion moves to 1-1 now. They dropped their first game, but I think this is what they kind of needed going into their CCL schedule coming up, and I think that this is something that they can build off of. Obviously, now they go and play Viator now, which last year I remember in this game we were wondering how Marmion was going to do or how Viator was going to do, and I think Viator handled them pretty easily last year.
Yeah, Viator was great out of the gate.
Yeah, but this year might be a little bit different. We'll see. I'm still kind of up in the air about both these teams, St. Viator and Marmion, but Marmion took care of business and really dominated North Lawndale and maybe got themselves a little bit of confidence going into the schedule here.
Yeah, it will be. That'll be a fun game to watch. It's kind of a good measuring stick for both teams.
Right. All right. So the next game, this was De La Salle and Plainfield East, Dan.
Yeah, did a little digging on this, Joe. Plainfield East, 55, De La Salle, nothing. So a struggle for De La Salle still. Still want to tell those kids, don't give up. But right. Not a lot to kind of hang your hat on right now. Just kind of trying to get through it. Again, they play at Bennett next week. So another challenge for De La Salle. You just don't want to see it start to go sideways for them from a numbers standpoint.
Right.
If so hopefully they can hang on. They're probably playing a ton of young guys. So we'll see if De La Salle can start to look to improve a little bit. So you've got to take those victories where you can. And I always say when you're really bad, hopefully they're doing some pizza parties and some things that team building helps. Stuff. Pizza. The team building stuff I think can make you, because you want it to be a positive experience. And if you're getting your teeth kicked in every week, it's not. But if you can build some lifelong memories with some of those other things, that the team building stuff, and for them it'd be program building, I think that has value. So, and again, I don't want to sell them short to that they aren't going to win a game, but it certainly looks like it's going to be tough in the CCL.
Yeah, I think so too. All right, but a team that does have a little momentum and is building here, Dan, is Leo. Leo, they played Amundsen, and they come away with the win 13-7 over Amundsen. Amundsen had won their first game and actually, looked pretty good doing it. In this game, Leo, they had trouble on the offensive side of the ball, moving the ball, and I don't think they had more than 50 passing yards. I think they might have had 28 rushing yards.
Wow.
So offensively, not very good, but defensively, they really kind of stood up and made some big plays. They have a sophomore defensive back. His name is Robert Cunningham III. He had a big hit on the goal line, popped the ball out, picked it up, ran it back 99 yards for a touchdown. They also have Derek Davis, who plays on both sides of the ball for Leo. He threw a touchdown pass, plus he picked off or had an interception at about the 20-yard line when Amundsen was trying to come back and win this game at the end of the game. So they've got some players, especially on the defensive side of the ball, and I think this was a huge win for them. They start out 2-0 this year. They have not done that at Leo since 2014, from what I read.
Wow.
So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Good for them.
yeah, Coach Theo Hopkins, the new head coach there. I know they were pumped after this win, and they should be, because they did not give up in this game, and their players showed up and made the big plays when they needed to be made, and they come away with a win. So good for them, right?
Yeah, I think that's a game you can really take a lot from. That's that mentality that Amundsen's inside the 5 and thinking they're going to score, and it's an opportunity. They might lose the game. Well, they make 2 big defensive stops,
right?
Late in the game, and come away with the victory. That is something that can really help build your team, and it's something to kind of hang your hat on as you go forward, and and talk to your lower levels about that. It's well, they don't have much in the way of lower levels, but they're all young, but it's definitely something they can build on.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so the next game here, Dan, was St. Lawrence, and let me make sure I got the right team.
That was Evanston, right?
Oh, St. Lawrence against Evanston. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think this was one you were watching, right?
It is one I had on. So yeah, and St. Lawrence dominated. I didn't write the score down. I think it was like 37 to 21, maybe the final.
Okay.
But
yeah.
St. Lawrence looked really good. Now they got out to a big lead, and maybe the second half, I'm guessing the coach was probably not happy. Coach Swanson's probably not happy with how they played late in the game or in the fourth quarter. They kind of gave up some points. It was a little sloppy, but they got several turnovers. And Corey Less is just a monster.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he is really, really a player, and he, just really difficult to bring down. They played 2 quarterbacks, Joe. One, McDermott, who played last year when the starter was injured, and I want to make sure I get this name right for them. Noah Taylor. Was played, and so he may have gotten the bulk of the time, but 37 to 21 was the final, and it was the 3 fumble recoveries that really kind of helped set them up for the victory. Like I said, they were in control most of the game. Got a little sloppy in the second half, but they looked really good.
Yeah. All right. Good. Yeah. So another game and another team that looked good was Montini, and they played Hillcrest, and they come away with a win here, 35 to 12. Montini kind of put this game away pretty quickly. I think it was 21-0 by halftime. And then they kind of coasted after that a bit. Izzy Abrams with a big game at quarterback for Montini. I think he rushed for 2 touchdowns. He threw for another 2. The wide receiver, last name I can't think, or last name of Oregon, I think had a big game. So the weapons on Montini, continue to show themselves, especially on the offensive side of the ball. But their defense as well kind of stepped up. Santino Tenuta had a big game at linebacker. I think he had another Santino.
God, I love it.
14 tackles, and Laddie Assay, the defensive back, who I don't remember from last year. I'm not sure if he's younger or just a new player on the team this year, but he's had 2 really good games in a row on the defense. I think he had 10 tackles, 3 tackles for loss, and interception. So, Montini last year was known mostly for its defense, and I know they graduated a lot of those players, but it seems like they've got a couple, who have come back this year, as well as some new players that we haven't talked about that are stepping up on the defense too. So if that's what's happening at Montini, they're going to be tough, throughout the season with whoever they play. But they come away with a nice win here over Hillcrest, 35-12.
Yeah, the White Division, Joe, is setting up to be one that's going to be really fun
good.
to watch with a ton of star power.
Yes, really good.
I know you like that. You're a big fan of star power. You're gonna have your hands full watching the White Division.
Yes. All right. Speaking of star power, Dan, Carmel and Lake Forest, and I think you picked Carmel in this game. I think I picked Lake Forest, or I should say, I know I did. Yeah, a problem for me. But you had a chance to watch a little bit of this game, and you said Carmel's talent really showed themselves, didn't they?
Yeah, I mean, and you want stars. You want to talk about star power. Trey Taylor was fantastic.
Yeah,
he threw for 264 yards and 4 touchdowns. He also ran for a pair of touchdowns, so he was outstanding. I was scribbling some notes as I was watching this game. They had a sack by number 44, Joe. That was a big play early in the game. And Joe, overall, their defense was just swarming. I mean, they looked like one of these defenses. I think we started talking about this last year. That was relentless. I mean, I talk about that with Zuko's Dog of the Week. They looked like that. And I mean, did not give Lake Forest room to breathe. Like they were at the quarterback or running back as the ball was being snapped. So really, really nice performance by Carmel, dominating and kind of reversing that loss from last year that I know stuck in their craw. This is what we learned. We learned this over the summer when we talked to Coach McKee that this is a rivalry game, players and coaches. So they certainly dominated and have the bragging rights in the North Shore for the next year.
Yeah. Okay. Well, good. All right. The last game we have, Dan, was Fenwick versus Oak Park River Forest, another rivalry game, and Fenwick coming off a big win in week 1 over DePaul Prep. They were looking to continue that into week 2. And they did. They beat Oak Park River Forest 35-0, shutting them out in a pretty dominant performance on defense for Fenwick. They started out a little slow on offense, but I think it might have been. I think it was like 14-0 at halftime. But the second half, it looked like they kind of figured things out on offense, and they pretty much dominated from there on out on both sides of the ball. The Thies brothers, Tommy and Jake, they both had really good games on both sides, on offense and on defense. I think Tommy had a interception returned for a touchdown, and Jake scored a touchdown on offense, as well as had a fumble recovery on defense. So the Thies brothers, as well as Jamin Williams, and there's some other really good players there too at Fenwick. But they seem to be in mid-season form right now in their first 2 games. So they I think they take on Joliet Catholic this week. So we'll see. As far as where they're at from that standpoint, but they look to be like a team to be reckoned with.
Yeah, they are really good. Like I said, they've been impressive in all phases of the game. So I'm excited to see how they look in one of these traditional rivalries with Joliet Catholic.
Yeah, I am too. And we've talked about some really good performances.
Joe, I've got 2 more games.
Oh, that's right. All right. Which
so one good, one bad. So right. St. Francis beat Mount Zion Prep Academy on Saturday.
Oh, okay.
And so right. 47-25. Not a ton of information out there on this, but a great win for St. Francis to move to 2-0, and in something that was a bit of a surprise to me, Morton, the Potters.
Right.
I think they may go by something else, maybe the Hogs, but they're the Morton Potters, 38-7 over Marion Catholic.
Really?
So a bit of a surprise there. Morton is pretty good. but Marion's struggling offensively. This game was 38-0, before Marion called or Marion scored. So so tough start for Marion Catholic, and they've got an interesting game at DePaul Prep next week. So good, another good one to follow. But I wanted to make sure we got those two in.
Yeah, for sure. I didn't realize we didn't cover those, but I'm glad you caught that. Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, it wouldn't be Varsity Voices if we didn't.
If we're missing something.
Yes.
It's usually me who misses something, not you, Dan.
No, that's not true. But yeah.
All right, but we did talk about some really good performances this week, both on the offensive side of the ball and the defensive side of the ball. And everyone knows how much we love the defensive side of the ball. And someone else on our team also does. And that's Zuko. And
it's that time.
It's that time. It's time to announce our Zuko's Dog of the Week winner or recipient for week 2. Dan, we looked at a couple of really good performances. Who kind of stood out to you from the standpoint of on defense as well as exhibiting the traits of Zuko?
Well, I'm partial to lineman, D lineman, so I have to highlight the defensive line for Brother Rice, in the shutout of Marist. And these names are kind of household names. There's King Liggins, Cameron McGee, and there's someone, of course, my mind escapes me right now. There's a third too, another big Division I recruit. God bless America. I'll make sure I get that corrected at some point. But their defensive line was awesome. Just controlled that big offensive line of Marist. They do a really good job. So want to highlight that whole D line from Brother Rice, as well as the defense from Carmel, Joe. I did get Christian Chaddock is the name of the person that had the sack when I was watching. He's a defensive end, and like I said, they kind of dominated from start to finish, and so wanted to make sure that we highlighted those players. And let's see if there was anyone else that I had some notes on. I think you had a couple, Joe, that you wanted to highlight as well.
Well, there were 2 players that I mentioned from Montini on defense, right? And
Yes.
That was Santino Tenuta, 14 tackles, 1 for loss. Also, Laddie Assay from Montini, 10 tackles, 3 tackles for loss, and an interception. You've got the 2 players on defense at Leo who had big games and came up with huge plays right when the team really needed them. One was Derek Davis. The other I mentioned was
it Robert Cunningham, the third?
The third, yes.
Yes.
He's the one who picked up the fumble and ran it back 99 yards for the winning touchdown for them. So another 2 players or 4 players there on defense that really had some good games this week.
Joe, and before we get to the winner, we want to talk about, I want to just say that, sometimes, there's going to be a lot of guys every week that have great stats, but between you and I, our criteria is typically something where, the Zuko's Dog of the Week kind of presents itself as we watch these videos of someone that's just all over the field, that just, you can't miss when you're watching the game, and they just,
yeah, I think we've lost Dan there.
Oh, am I back?
Now you're back.
All right, let me see if I can't.
Was that Zuko?
It's Zuko. Yes, he was chiming in,
or he was laying there chewing on your cable.
Right, I think so. So yeah, he chewed the camera. The camera came off. See if I can even get to it again. If I got.
Well, I see you just fine.
All right. Well,
you're on a different camera, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So the idea behind Zuko's Dog of the Week is that it just kind of jumps out at you when you're watching it, and it's like you're like, whoa. And Joe, you said that about this player this week in a game you watched, and I thought I saw it in week 1 too.
You did. I remember you mentioning it.
Yeah. Mount Carmel inside linebacker Roman Igwe. He's a big time athlete, big time prospect. He is an absolute all over the field menace in every game they play in. And if you don't account for him, he is going to give you big problems throughout the game. So
he's going to make you pay for it.
He really is, and in a team full of studs on both sides of the ball, he is a guy that really, without being a quarterback or receiver, but being on the defensive side of the ball, that jumps out similar to the quarterbacks and wide receivers because of just how he plays. So he definitely earns this week's Zuko's Dog of the Week. So congratulations.
Congratulations to Roman. He had a great game, and for sure, Dan, when you say jumps off the film, Roman jumps off the film when you watch it. So Congratulations, Roman.
Studio audience, thank you. They're so quiet before this point.
All right. Well, that wraps up our Week 2 Chicago Catholic League recap. Another weekend of great football, and the competition is already heating up as teams start to separate themselves. Congratulations again to our Zuko's Dog of the Week winner, Roman Igwe, a true difference maker in the Chicago Catholic League. Thank you for tuning into the Varsity Voices. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share the show with your fellow high school football fans. We'll be back soon with our Week 3 Prognosticus Predictions episode. Until then, I'm Joe Frevaletti here with my co-host Dan Frevaletti, and we will talk with you soon.